What I'm about to say might piss off your old identity, but it will set your wealthy identity free. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot step into your wealthy timeline while still making decisions from an identity you built in survival mode. Meaning, your old habits, your survival skills that you had from just trying to get through life will conflict the success and the desire you have in your wealthy timeline. I don't care how many courses you buy. I don't care how many planners you fill out. I don't care how many journals you stack up on your nightstand. If the woman behind the decision hasn't shifted, nothing else is going to shift either. Today, we're going to be talking about the 5-stage identity upgrade that moves you from survival to your wealthy timeline. Let's get into it. Leave me a comment below if you've been taught that wealth is a number. We all been taught that wealth is a number. They would tell you to hit the 10K months, the 20K months, the 100K years. But wealth is not a number. Wealth is a frequency. It's a state of being. You're chasing money, but you're supposed to be chasing the version of you who can hold the money, who can hold the success. The reason the life you want feels so far away is because you're still showing up as the woman who had to survive instead of the woman who gets to lead. This is how you know you're in survival identity. You delay, you procrastinate, you shrink, you doubt, you overthink, you overcontrol, and you only feel safe doing the things that you can predict. But wealthy identities, they move different. They decide faster, they trust themselves deeper, they move with intention. They make moves that matches their vision, not their fear. So we're going to start with phase 1, which is the vision. The vision. Everything starts with a vision, a picture of what you could be like, a vision of what your life could look like. That is God showing you what's possible. That is your highest self, your divine self in imagination. When we were kids, the only thing we had was our imagination. And that imagination made our realities feel like it was so real, it was so true. The moment you stop imagining and having visions is the exact moment you just accept whatever life gives you. And that's really how the world has conditioned us for years to stop having a vision or to think that's just childlike or something only kids do, when in fact that's the very start of your success. The light bulb exists because somebody had the imagination to solve a problem. What vision keeps tugging at you? That's your invitation. That's the preview of what's possible, but here's the part most people skip. Decision. This is your first identity shift. A real vision demands a real decision. Not a when a life slows down, not a when I feel ready, not a when January 1st first start hits. I'm talking about a this is who I am now. This is where I'm going now. This is what I'm doing now decision. Thomas Edison didn't create the light bulb because he was motivated. He created it because he had decided. That was his decision. His decision was this has to work or this has to work. No in between. The most challenging thing for people to do is to decide because it comes with a self-belief that you have to embed in yourself. So if you can't get off this phase of decision making, you'll never make it to your desired reality. So that's why most people stay in decision loops. They thinking about it, or they waiting for a sign, or I'm almost finished, or they stay in planning mode. But a firm decision collapses all of that confusion. A firm decision is saying this version of me is non-negotiable. Survival identities avoid decisions. Wealthy identities make them. Half of the time, you're not struggling with clarity, you're struggling with deciding. That leads me to our next phase, discipline. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? This is your devotion. People hate this word because they think discipline means force or it's some type of structure that they can't. I don't know. I don't know what it is about this word, but discipline is honoring the promises you keep to yourself. I'm telling you, the biggest life hack was me keeping the promises to myself. Don't just believe in a vision, believe in yourself. A lack of discipline is nothing but a lack of self-trust. That's why some people have 100 ideas but don't finish one. That's why they start and stop. That's why they feel like they almost made it, or I almost made it, I almost did it. Discipline is you proving to you, nobody else. It's you versus you. You need to prove to yourself that you are safe to trust again. And that is when your identity shift starts getting real. That's how you know. This is how you know you're not stuck. If you can give yourself a command and do it, you have the willpower. But if you give yourself a command and you don't follow through with it, you're stuck. I'm telling you, discipline is the only thing that will have your momentum on fire. You're gonna be doing things you've never done before. You're strengthening that self-trust. That's why the next phase is habits. When discipline becomes consistent, it turns into a habit. And we love good healthy habits over here. We love good healthy habits. This is actually your nervous system safety net. So nervous system safety net. Your habits is where your identity lives because the habits shapes your reality. You are where you are right now because of a decision and the habits you've made in the past. This is what they mean by be, do, have. Who are you when no one's watching? Who do you need to be so you can do the things that allow you to have the things you want in life or the life you want? Your habits shape everything. It shapes your beliefs. It shapes your safety. It shapes your capacity. It shapes your structure, your internal structure. It shapes your nervous system. Your body always tries to keep you safe. So if wealth feels unfamiliar, you will sabotage it. That's why the discipline going to shape you into building healthier habits that aligns with your wealth frequency and your wealth identity so wealth doesn't feel unfamiliar. That's why habits are crucial because we want our bodies to know that success is normal. And once you get your habits aligned with your wealthy identity, that's when it doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel scary anymore. So I want you to do something that's called habit stacking. If you never heard of this term before, it's basically giving yourself it could be one thing, it could be three things, it could be five things, depending on your discipline, depending on the trust and the belief and the willpower that you have. Say, for instance, you say that you're going to make up your bed, drink your glass of lemon water, and dress the part for a whole week straight. Those are three habits now that I'm kind of pushing it. But say you're going to do those three things for a week. Anything you could do for 2 weeks becomes a habit. So let's say 2 weeks. Let's say you do that for the first 2 weeks. If you can go the full 2 weeks making your bed, drinking water, dressing the part in the morning, dressing like you're a wealthy woman or man, then you can add on another habit. But you still have to do those habits. So you're stacking them. So the last 2 weeks of that month, let's say you add on exercising, and doing something that scares you every day. This creates the discipline and the self-trust to keep going because the first 2 weeks you did something you've never done before and you stayed consistent. And I'm telling you that momentum is gonna bring a different type of beats out of you to want to do more. Right? Be, do, have. So now you just created 5 new habits in a month. And now you're on fire. Now you're going to see the identity shifts. You're going to start seeing the positivities that comes with shifting your identity and becoming that person who trusts themselves, who believes in themselves, who can form the good habits in order to get what they never had before. Now, if you can do that, you can do stage 5, which is execution. This is the last and final phase, execution. This is where your breakthrough happens. So the habits that we did in the last phase, it teaches your nervous system that you're asking for, the person that you want to become, the wealthy identity you want to step into is not a threat. It's the new normal. What happens is when you come from a survival state of being and you try to step into wealth and different things, your body is going to go in shock. Your body is going to go in protection mode and be like, wait, this don't feel normal. You doing something you ain't never done before. Let me keep you safe. Let me self-sabotage your mind. Let me play tricks on your mind. Let me make you play small. Let me allow you to shrink back into who you were because we don't know this person. So the habits is what's built that new identity so it can feel safe. All right. So now that we're getting your habits on board, it supports your new identity and execution becomes natural. it becomes the next step. Not something that you got to force. It doesn't feel like pressure. It doesn't feel like performance. It feels like alignment. You already know what happens when you execute. You already know when you cross the finish line, when you complete the assignment. Doors start opening up. Opportunities start flooding in. Your income increases. Abundance starts overflowing. You step into your wealthy identity. You got motion now. Everything that you've done in this identity upgrade, your vision, your discipline, your decision, your habits, you now become the woman or the man who can execute. Everything that you want, and I mean everything that you've been asking for, is on the other side of consistent execution from a stable identity, meaning the self-trust that you built from the discipline and the habits that you form. This is exactly why I start with identity in all of my containers. When I work with women, we start with who are you? Who are you being? What's blocking your wealthy identity? How can we activate that power inside of you? How can we activate that brand and that calling to be able to hold the capacity of success you're asking for? Your wealthy timeline is not waiting on a new niche. It's not waiting on a new course. It's not waiting on a new strategy. It is waiting on a new identity. And right now, you're still negotiating with the woman or man you survived as. All right, let's do a little recap of the 5-stage identity upgrade that you need to go from survival identity to a wealthy identity. The first one was vision. This is the invitation. This is the first thing that you start getting a sense of and imagining in order to reach the desired reality you want. The second thing is decision. This is your first identity shift. The reason why this is your first identity shift because you're deciding on being, doing, and having. When you invest in that mentorship, when you invest in that course, when you invest in yourself, you are making a decision. You're deciding. You're finally moving from vision to deciding. And then the third one is discipline. This is your devotion to yourself. It's always you versus you. And next is the habits. This is your nervous system safety net. What habits are you forming for your wealthy identity? What habits align with your wealthy identity? And then the last one is execution. This is where your breakthrough happens. You're not waiting on God. God is waiting on you to move. God is waiting on you to act. God is waiting on you to believe and trust and make a decision. Okay? If you made it to the end of this video, I know you're ready to break up with your survival identity. If you want guidance and stepping into your wealthy identity, if you want to go from idea to income, ready to become the woman or man your vision actually requires, hit that subscribe button because this is exactly the place you want to be. Y'all want to tell me I spelled discipline wrong. But all right, y'all. Until next time, go be great.